Teresa's gotten several calls about me. Did you want to hear that story?
I do.
They've been looking in bed at 2 a.m. at all the pretty stuff, and now the pretty stuff can become theirs. How do we get there?
It gets real in a hurry.
Yes. Things that you think are a big deal, you become more amenable to when you find the one.
When you find the one.
Bet you didn't think we were going there.
You got to white glove it.
I have to walk in, see it, taste it, touch it, smell it, all the senses, because you're not going to send me pictures of that whole...
You have to uncover everything, because otherwise you're not serving them properly. I had one of those a couple days ago. I had to work backwards fast, but something just happened to pop up. And for some people, we talked about planning a lot earlier. Sometimes when the one comes up, it's when you least expect it.
And it's usually not even the one you thought it would be.
It's not. Everyone gets excited when they talk to you, right? It gets serious when they come talk to me.
Mm-hmm. Now we're ready.
I'm not just some person you're going to call, right, off the internet.
It's different.
It's different.
It's relationship.
It's relationship, but it's the biggest. I feel like you're pulling back the curtain, and I'm learning all sort of stuff.
All the secrets.
About the Wizard of Oz. Yeah.
All the secrets.
Wow.
Interest rates are boring. All this other stuff is fun.
Exactly. Exactly. Welcome to the Nest Podcast, everyone, where we discuss real estate, health, wealth, and life. Today's guest is Kimberly Lafleur with Teresa Hamilton and team at Ladder and Bloom. Kimberly, welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Of course. Before we get started, I wanted to let everyone know that I did not send you a text message to color coordinate with preferred Linden Green today. So
green has become a color I like a lot, but I was just talking with Anya earlier. Green's not my color. So my closet is full of green. I like it, but apparently my skin tone doesn't like it.
Interesting. Well, I dig it, so I'm glad you wore it. Speaking of color, I had wanted to get started with a couple of other topics, but off camera before we got started, you started mentioning, actually you asked me a question. You said, hey, do you know your color? And you said, green is not my color. I was like, well, how do you know it's not your color? Do you not like it? And you're like, no, it's literally not my color. And then you went into telling me a story about how you discovered what your color was.
Yes. So back in the 70s, I guess this company's been around, franchised out all over the United States. And they sit with women and drape them with hundreds of colors and eventually figuring out which ones are theirs. And you gravitate towards certain seasons and then certain colors within that season. So I was talking about how this is Kelly green, but my green is more of like a jade. And they give you a whole fan of colors where I can go into my closet and say and then I start putting colors together or putting prints together. I'm usually typically a real neutral person. I'm comfortable in neutrals, but black is not my neutral. Okay.
So that's a lot of input for my man brain. I'm sure my male audience viewing right now just completely. All right. So you hired a place. This is a service.
I did.
Okay.
They have one in Ponchatoula and one in Alexandria. And I think they need one in Lafayette. They need one closer because the women here want to know their colors.
Want to know their colors.
You're going to buy your wife a Mother's Day gift or a birthday gift, and she's going to be so pumped to come back wearing. She can redo her entire wardrobe.
Okay.
It sounds real cheap.
You're learning me colors today. I like it. Okay, so you found this place online. You were referred by someone who had participated and paid for the service.
I've known some people who have done it over the years, and then we talked about branding, and I was just curious, wanted to know, what are my colors? I buy things that I like, not because they're a certain color. And then you start buying things because they're a certain color. It makes shopping, I don't like to shop. It makes shopping a lot easier because not everything in the store is fair game. It's that color or that, not that style.
So you go in focused on your palette.
Let's be honest, I don't like to shop at all. I don't
like to shop?
I don't. I really don't. I don't have time for it.
Okay.
I don't enjoy it. I do a lot of Rent the Runway, where I've done this for probably 4 years.
Rent the Runway.
Rent the Runway. So people think of Rent the Runway like on your formal dresses.
I got to focus the man brain again. Rent the Runway.
Rein it in.
Yes, ma'am.
Rent the Runway used to do just formal dresses. When you would go to a ball or go to a wedding or something, they would send you a dress. They do everyday clothes.
Okay.
So I can buy a $300 dress, but how many times am I actually going to wear it? So I can rent
Like the
think it's-
$2,000 Mardi Gras ball or something like that.
Correct. And now it's everyday clothes. You're not going to buy it. You wear it once. Or if I buy, in seasonal. So
Okay.
now I rent 5 pieces a month, and they have different levels, but I rent, wear it a couple times, may not wear some pieces at all, send them back. I know which ones I like. And then I get something else the next month.
I feel like you're pulling back the curtain, and I'm learning all sort of stuff.
All the secrets.
About the Wizard of Oz. Yeah.
All the secrets.
Wow.
And then you look at and then the best part, the numbers part of me.
You do this on the internet, or
They
you
should-
like physically go and pick stuff?
No, I don't like to shop. So I go on the internet, and that's the hardest part of this is picking out what I want in the next shipment because I don't enjoy it. So I have to flip through, figure out, and then if I have like during winter, I've rented coats before because we don't need winter coats
That makes
around
sense.
here.
I would do that. That makes sense.
I enjoy it. Like summer, I'll do shorts or dress. I wear a lot of dresses. Dresses are good. Dress it up, dress it down. I'm comfortable.
Okay.
I can run to mass in it. I can go to a closing in it. I can do an inspection in it. Dresses are my thing. This is mine. I own this one though.
Okay. I don't know. I'm
A whole
speechless.
new world. There's a whole new world when it comes
It's
to
a whole new
colors and dressing ourselves. I also don't wash my hair. Bet you didn't think we were going there. I don't know shampoo.
Do tell.
Oh, look, see, I started before. Annie.
I think I know a little bit about this, but
I said it the
keep
other
with
day.
the ninja
Someone
tricks.
was asking me the other day, what do we not know? My daughter is.
So you're telling me that your
5.
golden locks are not always like clean, like I wash my hair every day.
Correct.
Okay.
They are. It would be a disservice to my hair if I didn't do it the way I did. My daughter, whose oldest Annie is 5, before she was born, it just got too hard. My hair's thick. There's a lot of it. So I started having my normal hairdresser. I was like, can you just wash it for me and dry it?
Well, you're already there. I
And
mean, it
fix
makes
it.
sense.
So now I go once a week and they fix it. And it'll last 10 days. I don't put dry shampoo. I run a brush through it in 10 seconds in the morning, and that's it. During COVID, I had to buy shampoo and wash my own hair. A couple weeks ago, I canceled my appointment for the first time in a really long time. I made my mom wash my hair. It's too much. It's too much hair. It's too much work.
You canceled.
That's the first time in probably 5 years I canceled.
The person that does it, did like you have an ambulance show up at your house?
See what's wrong with me? We should have.
They didn't do it?
No.
Okay, good.
That was the first time.
They thought about it probably.
But I remember my mom washing my hair. I was like, this is ridiculous. This is too much. But, okay, so from the business side of that, I sit in that chair. It's an hour and a half. I sit in that chair and work the entire time. All my research, anything I need to do, people are waiting on me. It's done in that chair.
Isn't it crazy though?
Because if I had to do my own hair, wash it, dry it, fix it, it would not look like theirs.
Yeah.
And I can make money while I'm doing it.
That's how you collapse time.
That's it.
We take the kids to the bus stop in the morning. When we run late, I automatically lose an hour, 30 minutes round trip, even if traffic's decent. I talk a lot on the phone while I'm driving. That's a big one.
Well, that's for me. I'm an hour each way
For a commute from the house?
from Ville Platte.
From Ville Platte. Wow.
Nobody lives in Ville Platte.
Wow. So one of the top agents in Lafayette, you live in Ville Platte.
And I don't tell many people that, client-wise, because they think, oh, she doesn't work. That doesn't impact my ability to serve clients at all. I'm from New Iberia. Husband's family company is in Ville Platte.
Okay.
So when we first got married, we bought in Washington. So that gave me good access to 49 to get into Lafayette.
Right.
Then we built next to my in-laws, and we moved there October of 22. So like this morning, I had an HVAC inspection in Delcom. So an hour and 15 minutes. I left my house at 6:45.
Man.
But my husband can handle, he really supports on the back end because, if I have evening appointments or weekend appointments or something, it's not like a real quick, get in the car, go show a house real quick. If I'm doing anything, it's 2 hours of driving plus however much time I'm there.
It's definitely a team effort. I mean, I have the best director in the world. I just so happen to get to live with her too. Thank you, honey. No, it's a big thing. Sometimes we have to work a little bit later than normal to accommodate certain professional schedules. We each kick in, coordinating who's picking up the kids from school, who's grocery shopping, who's cooking, who's cleaning. It's a thing. So that's good that you have help.
When we started having family operations meetings probably about a year ago, people think I'm crazy when I say that.
So you're talking about you and your husband and the
my
kid?
husband. No, just me and my husband.
Family ops.
And it's not during date night, but we plan date night.
Ooh.
So we have an agenda because we were flying by the seat of our pants with who's picking up the kids.
Family
what's for
family
dinner.
ops. You're time blocking that.
So we are, when the kids go to bed, usually at the end of the month to prepare for the next. So maybe
For a whole month?
the whole month. So we'll do end of February. We'll look at, okay, what weekends will I need to work? Open houses, out of town clients, things like that. What weekend I have to, he needs time for himself too. So golf, any golf trips, golf tournaments, when do we need sitters right now? So instead of calling like, did you get a sitter? Did you get the sitter? We look at it. So ahead of time, we know when we need sitters. So I'm texting the sitters while we're having the meeting. That's all lined up. Checking with parents, in-laws, we're going to need a sitter for these days. Do you want the girls? If not, no big deal. We'll get a sitter. So it's not we were doing everything at the last minute. Yeah. And it was too much. And so from there, we'll plug in date nights, everything doesn't have to be planned, but it really does help out to have everything planned ahead of time. When it comes meals, I have an agenda and people think I'm crazy to do it, but
it helps.
And with how busy, we're both self-employed. So when we're both busy, he leaves the house, he's up at 4:30, he's gone by 5. He comes back in the mornings, we're just 4 minutes from his office. He'll come back and he'll bring the girls to school. He handles drop off and pick up. Because I need to be able to get into Lafayette, but there's days I work from home.
Unimpeded with significant amounts of traffic.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
And that's what I hate it. If the girls they need something at school, I am 1 hour. Like if school called right now,
right,
I'm 1 hour away. If they call him, he's a block away.
Nice. It makes sense. I'm the morning parent, but I'm the morning person out of the two of us, so it makes sense. I started time blocking more this year with work. So it sounds like we'll have an idea to maybe do that on the personal side too.
What do your time blocks look like?
Gym every morning. Try to do that. Try to always shoot for, green time, red time. What are some prospecting? You mentioned you're both self-employed. For people who aren't self-employed, what that really means is that every day we wake up like we have no food or no money, so if you're not constantly prospecting, doing different types of things. So having at least 2 hours of that a day. Is it always going to fit from a certain time from one day to the next? No, but as long as I shoot for that structure and hit it 70-80% of the time, it helps. I'm getting better at it. Not great. So that's kind of always, we're always a work in progress and learning. I would tell you that's one of my big ones I'm focusing on now because it's taking me the longest to get it implemented most of the time.
And when you look at without time blocking, someone else can run your schedule all day long. If you didn't have time for the gym, if a client called when you were on the way to the gym, oh, I'm just going to finish this call and you skipped your whole gym time. You can call them back after, get your gym time in. That's important. Get your family time in. I learned when I got into the business that our family are appointments on our schedule. So my client does not need to know, and this is the example they gave. The client does not need to know your child has a soccer game Saturday at 10 a.m. They want to go Saturday at 10 a.m. to look at a house. I have an appointment. How about give them 2 other options? How about Saturday at 12:30? They don't care where you are because their biggest priority right now is getting into that house.
Sure.
And in Acadiana, we have 1,800 agents that are around. If you can't take them when they want to go, or if you seem too busy with your own family, or if you seem too busy with any other clients, with something else, they'll find someone else.
Yeah.
You have to be available. You have to be around to be able to help them. But I just don't let them know where I'm at, what I'm doing. It's not necessary. They don't need to know the details.
Sure.
So I can be a present mom and I can be a present wife and a lot of my road time. So my commute time, an hour there, an hour back, all my phone. I get so many phone calls.
I'm hyper productive on the road.
Yes.
I had a client a couple days ago, driving my kid to baseball practice, and talked to someone on a lead on the phone. He said, "Man, you can call me back tomorrow." I'm like, "No, you have 100% of my attention right now." Just he doesn't know, right? He didn't know at the time. That's my jam, like hyper focused. The conversations actually become a little bit more concise. A big focus, I feel like, of people's businesses, just in general, but particularly like right now for me, is speed to need. People who do leads, speed to lead, speed to lead, speed to lead. Someone reached out, they want to hear from someone, call them as soon as possible. It's still a thing, but speed to need has been a big thing for me. So maybe let's say you send me a contact, and perfect world, I would get them in 5-10 minutes if I wasn't in an appointment. Maybe it goes to a couple of hours, but once I get to that point, I am digging down quick.
Let's get to the bottom of it now.
clarity. I mean, inaction is not good. More information is being required right now for people to make decisions. Everyone gets excited when they talk to you, right? It gets serious when they come talk to me.
Mm-hmm. Now we're ready because we have the conversation. When I started in this business 11 years ago, we were leading people to lenders. Pre-approvals were starting to come around. You need to have it. Now they've come to us and they have them. They understand. And if they don't, we explain why. And it's at first, you're going to walk into the house you love and you can't make a move on it. And so they know that, they can't wait around. And when the market picks up like it is right now, you better have already had those conversations and all the documentation ready. Because when they come from looking online for 6 months and they walk into an open house or they walk into a showing, and then all of a sudden they realize they're more ready than they thought. They've been looking in bed at 2 a.m. at all the pretty stuff. And now the pretty stuff can become theirs. Yep. How do we get there?
It gets real in a hurry.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. 3D, being in it, getting all the feels, all that stuff. I had one of those a couple of days ago. I had to work backwards fast. But something just happened to pop up. And for some people, we talked about planning a lot earlier. Sometimes when the one comes up, it's when you least expect it.
And it's usually not even the one you thought it would be.
It's not. That's how it worked out for our house.
The buyers will give you a list of what they want, but it's not until I'm with them. I can set up a search all day long. You want a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, $400,000 in Youngsville in this school zone? Great. I can set that up on a search. You can too, because you're already doing that. You're looking online. Sure. But it's not until we start going into homes where I'm hearing them, what they're saying to each other, what they're saying to me, what they're not saying, that it's, okay, let me go back and let me revise our search, and here's what I'm hearing and seeing. I had a client recently. This was the first, and this was fantastic. I don't know if I've ever done this before. They said, we are too busy. We're working. We're both very busy, busy people. Our house is under contract. We need to buy something. You send us a list. I had everything. I had the world. I could pick it all out for them. They gave me, their parameters. And here's what we'd like.
That's not how it normally goes.
That is not how it normally. Usually they send me a list of 15 homes. I was sending them a list, and then
I always thought it was the opposite.
We don't, because they have access to everything. It used to be. So back in the day when everything was not fed, so conversations start in a seller's kitchen. So I'll go meet with a seller. We'll look at the house. We'll sit down. We'll sign paperwork. I bring that back to my office. We implement, everything we do for marketing. And then it enters into our MLS. From there, it feeds into Zillow, Realtor, Trulia.com, all of those, our company websites, our team websites. But before, so you have, as soon as I enter it, you have access to it.
Immediately. Before it was just MLS.
So usually I'll send you something, you say, yeah, I already saw it. Yeah, I already saw that one. Because my conversation started with the seller in their kitchen, and I gave you access to that information. Back in the day, there was an MLS book that was printed. This is before my day, every 2 weeks. So you would go to a realtor and say, this is what I want. And the realtor would say, here's what's available for you.
Okay.
Now it's opposite. Now you're going to your agent saying, this is what I want. Here's what I want to see.
So if I were to summarize that and give it a name, I would say, or you lost gatekeeper status, I guess. So if you're glass half full, glass half empty, like, hey, we used to control all the information. Some people may look at that as a negative, but now if you're empowering the consumer, a lot of times they've uncovered a lot of their own needs and wants, and they come to you. You find they're coming to you more ready.
They have decision paralysis because in their mind, there it is, and they think they know what they want. So they'll tell me. And a lot of times, you are on these maps, on these in these portals looking, and you tell me you want to be in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in Youngsville, and you're sending me stuff in Karen Crow because you don't realize you've ventured way off this map.
Yeah.
Or there's other.
You're wanting stuff right here, but then you kind of start looking.
So then I see, okay, so you're telling me this is where you want to be. We don't have any real reason why we want to be or need to be in Youngsville, but now we're open to Karen Crow because you've sent that over to me. And now I need to know when I see what they're looking at, or when I see what it takes away the information. We've lost, we're not the gatekeepers of information anymore, but it's the relationships and the understanding and the hearing that computers can't do that. What they're thinking and what they're saying and their actions when they walk through a house. No. A person will walk in a house in the first 28 seconds. I can tell if it's, I think there's a stat on it, but you walk in And I can walk in a home and tell you, basically I've been in so many where what the layout is. Your primary bedroom's over here, secondary's over here. You're gonna have a laundry over here. But if floor plan is not incredibly important to them, they're gonna walk in. You can tell. They know. You knew when you bought your house. Did you know? Did this one stand out?
I tell people the story a lot. It's usually I say, hey, look, within the first 5, we didn't even leave the much past the middle of the living room. Did you have criteria on what you thought you wanted floor plan wise, or carpet, no carpet, bedroom, ceiling height, things? We knew we had, so this is our second home. We've been here about 8 years. We looked at it. So we were looking at it through a different lens as experienced homeowners at the time, because we had lived in our prior house for 6.5 years. And I never knew that was a thing. Like, you're a rookie home buyer or a rookie homeowner, right? And you're an experienced homeowner. So that sounds crazy, but like, what does that mean? Well, we lived in a house for 6.5 years, and as our family grew and our needs changed and our preferences changed, we'd had conversations from being in there from 2 weeks in to 6.5 years in, where, hey, look, the next time we get a house, I want something like that. Or the next time we have this, like, we came from a 4 bed, 2 bath. Actually, it was a 3 in an office and 2 bath with an extra dining room. So that was fine when we had a play area until the kids got out of their cribs, and then like they had their own rooms. But we came here with, we wanted a 4-3. And then we had a list of non-negotiables. Now, fortunately, we were in a position to be able to pay for what we wanted. But that was, so we looked at but we did the same thing you talked about. We looked at 3-3s that had an office, because it had some kind of like crazy standout feature, and we got distracted by all the shiny things, and those shiny things were nice. But we pulled back, and, we just like, hey, we have 2 sons, we don't have the stomach or the appetite to be able to add on to a house. Let's get the core thing. We want 4-3. So we deviated a little bit. Our realtor at the time was very patient, but we eventually got back on track. We walked in this one. I believe this may have been the 8th or 9th house that we viewed, maybe the 10th.
That's average.
You asked me the time frame. It may have been 27 seconds, 28 seconds, I think. But I tell people, like, look, 5 minutes, we didn't leave the room. We looked at each other and said, oh shit, this is our house. And we hadn't even walked the whole thing. But to you, I'm thinking back to it now. One thing that goes with what you said earlier, there's certain things that computers and the internet and AI can't do. We thought we wanted a certain floor plan, and for the most part, we stuck to it. But you can't, even with virtual tours, like,
you can't tell.
You got to be able to step in, put your feet in the house, and feel the flow of the house.
And I get calls all the time from people. Can you tell me what my house is worth? I have to walk in, see it, taste it, touch it, smell it, all the senses, because you're not going to send me pictures of that hole in the wall, or the cigarette smell, or the pet smell, or the whatever it is that really can affect and present a challenge. So I'm going to give you this market value, and it's going to have no bearing on what it's actually worth, because I need to be able to get inside of it. So once you got inside of it, you walked in here, it fit most of your criteria, you decided within 30 seconds that this was it. So then at that point, when you go into the master and you had a hard stop on, we're not having carpet, you're going to walk into the master and say, we can change this carpet. Things that you think are a big deal, you become more amenable to when you find the one. I had a buyer not recently, but a buyer, I sat at the closing table. I said, you would have fired me if I sent you this house. And he's like, well, why? I said, your search started out as you were working offshore. You like to work on cars. You wanted to lock and leave. You wanted a place where you can work on the car, but you wanted more of a townhouse where you wouldn't have to worry about it, low maintenance, whenever you're offshore and in this price range. You're buying a foreclosure on 4 acres, a mobile home on 4 acres is what he ended up with in an area he wasn't looking. I said, I never would have sent you this. And he said, you're right. So we joke about buyers are liars, because they send the list of what they want, but where they really end up, and it's okay. We're there to walk them through. I want to navigate that journey with them, but it takes someone pointing out to them, okay, you said this was very important to you, but here's what I'm hearing and seeing. I'm like, you're right.
I think that language is key, because you don't want to sound like you're telling them what to do. You're using so you used his words based off of what you said. I'm delivering these options to you, and same with us. How long did it take you to go from, like, when they would call and say, hey, what's my house worth? And maybe you would say, hey, look, give me 15 minutes, and we run a CMA or whatever the report's called, and you would get back with them, or maybe they would stay on the phone with you, and you would go from doing that to go from, like, getting very granular and using my favorite phrase, well, it depends. How long before you converted, where you were, instead of being an order taker, you became an advisor?
There was probably one. I work with some investors that I love dearly, and they're buying stuff all day long, all over town. And they sent me one, and I sent them, hey, what's this worth? And so I sent it right back to them. And when they bought it, and it came time to listing it, and I went inside, I went, whoa, I need to drive by this neighborhood. This is not, what I did was just pull the area. I pulled things around it. That street was very different in a negative way than everything else around it. It did not fit my so ever since then, I need to drive by. And if I can walk inside, great. But I can't just throw numbers out at people, because people take those numbers like they're law. Yeah. Like they're appraisals.
We're living the same life, thank God.
How many times has someone had an appraisal and said, well, I have an appraisal that says this? And I have the general conversation of, listen, appraisals are another subjective opinion of value.
It's true.
You're going to have two done on the same day. You can have two totally different values. Who's
same
right?
experience level same experience. For the appraisers.
Yep. Who's right?
Yeah. The drive-by thing's important. I forget how it's defined, but basically, client satisfaction is how much you're able to minimize the gap between expectations and the outcome. So in your case, they had expectations of a certain thing, when you're talking about the investor client, but you went out and then you put the brake, you pumped the brakes on that and said, hey, look, now that I'm in it.
And that was too late. They'd already bought it. That's where I never again.
Yeah.
Because, and they're investors, so their numbers are very important. My number I'm always going to give my investors a conservative number. If it on a fire sale, if the market shifted, this is what your fire sale number is. This is where my conservative number is. 9 times out of 10, when they're buying, when they're finished with the product, flip the product or whatever they do, I'm higher than the number I gave them. That one time I was not. Never again.
Yep. Because
they depended on my expertise and my numbers. I pulled the numbers from the area. I couldn't get out there. They needed to know right away. Yep. Never again. That was my mess up.
Or you do it, but you heavily disclose it.
Yes.
At the risk of sounding non-committal, but you just have to say, like, if someone calls me and says, hey, what are interest rates looking like today?
You throw a number out and
I'll say it depends. What is it you're trying to do?
I think the general public doesn't realize how much that shifts throughout the day based off of circumstance, based off of situation for interest rates.
It took me about 3 years of being able to shift. I'd asked you when you kind of shifted from just spitting something out versus just digging deeper. You can talk to a lot of people and go wide and expand the amount of those conversations, or you can go on going deeper with and just making them more meaningful. So straight off the cuff is, what are you trying to do? It depends. And those calls, they think they're going to be on the phone with me for 3 minutes. I don't intentionally make them longer, but you have to uncover all of those things. What is your credit score? How much money you're putting down? Do you have a house to sell, or is this your first house?
And I'm sure for you, those numbers are never what they really are when you see them on paper. What they think their credit score is, typically not the case. What they say they make may or may not be the case. Yeah. I find that on my end with, like, even rentals. It's we may, send over the documentation. I'm like, that's not what we talked about. Still, it's fine. It works. I'll rent to you.
Yeah. No, you have to uncover everything, because otherwise you're not serving them properly. So hopefully, at least in my mind, hopefully within the first 5 minutes when someone calls me, it should be abundantly clear to them, because I am trying to make it not only seem that way to them, but because it's how it actually is, that I'm not just some person you're going to call, right, off the internet.
It's different.
It's different.
It's relationship.
It's relationship, but it's the biggest purchase. It's people's biggest purchase until the next time they make that biggest purchase But 95, 96, it's some high number, unless you're an investor, unless you're a business owner, where you buy a $500,000 machine, let's say for a shop, because you're a business owner or something like that. But you gotta white glove it. And one of the things that I run across is you said decision paralysis. I call it analysis paralysis, having too many choices.
Yeah.
And people do get overwhelmed because I do present options. I don't tell people what to do. I'll give them pros and cons. I'll give them choices. Sometimes people don't have one. Give them multiple options. And then we talk about the pros and cons of each. And sometimes it gets overwhelming for them. But at the end of the day, I'll always tell them, like, look, it's better to have options than not have options.
And I love I was a realtor in the Woodlands, Texas for 2 years when I started. Very business over there. You want to buy a house, you bought a house, pre-approved, never met parents, never met anyone with the family. That was it. Here, we joke that it's second showing when you have 15 cars in the driveway because grandma's going to have an opinion, aunts, uncles, and what they don't. And dad has always bought a house 40 years ago. This is how much he paid. This is how much he put down. And it's sometimes it's discouraging for the buyers because they really worked hard to get to this point.
That's
and they're
right.
really excited to show you. And when you come in and say, I'm not bathing my grandbabies in that tub, they stop. It brings them pause and they get really confused.
How do you I'll tell you how I do it. How do you overcome that?
So we talk, let's talk about, all the other things they looked at before. And I really set the stage when they walk in. This is what they're so excited about. This is where their monthly note is comfortable for them. The roof on this one, they won't have to change. All the things that they might not be thinking about.
Now, are you having this conversation with the prospective homeowners or with them and the family together?
You can usually my husband laughs about this because the few times he's come with me, he'll pull me aside and say, you got to watch him. You can usually see who the decision maker is in the group or who's going to be the influential one when they leave.
Are they the loudest?
Destroy the deal.
Are they the loudest or the quietest?
And they hate the house. They hate everything about it.
Okay.
But when I think back when I was in the Woodlands, the parents didn't see the house until when they were helping them move in that weekend. So they come in, they're not going to tell you how much they hate it then. They're going to talk about how much they love it. And so it's getting them, if we can get through inspection period without having 3 generations of family come in. And I value parents' input and
Sure.
my clients value their parents' input and we need everyone's input. But if we also need them there from beginning to end to understand how we arrived at this decision too. I need them to trust me. Their child has trusted me we've done this for months at a time.
Yeah.
How did we get to this point? And so you never want them, because you have agents out there that are just focused on the commission, worry about the commission. So usually I don't have an issue with getting them to understand how we got there, but it's recognized. I remember early on recognizing, whoa, what is going on here? They love this house. All of a sudden they're backing out.
Yeah,
for no
you just
reason.
unwound 90 days.
And now they have to start over, and the timeline doesn't work for them. But no, that was earlier on in the career when I realized how family-oriented, I'm from here, but how family-oriented Louisiana was when it comes to business too. They value the input.
Sure. I didn't realize so you started in real estate at the Woodlands?
I did.
In the Woodlands, Texas.
I did. You want to hear that story?
I do. I want to know what years you were there. Anya and I lived, our first home was actually in Texas.
My husband always says if anything ever happened to him, he knows I'm going back there to the Woodlands.
The Woodlands?
There's 239 miles of walking trails under trees.
No, it's
beautiful.
Neat. The infrastructure for a lot of those master communities is pretty.
They have it figured out. That's for sure.
Yeah. It's part of those real estate taxes, so there's
a little trade-off right there.
A little bit of a trade-off.
I rented there, so I didn't pay their property taxes.
We were in a southwest suburb right outside of Sugar Land.
I look at Houston like a clock with downtown in the middle, Woodlands noon, Katy 9. Where were you? Where on the clock?
We were at 7.
Sugarland area?
Sugarland area. Yeah. Katy was 20 miles due north, and then you have Cypress above that.
Everything was 40
clock
minutes
also,
away.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's some things we miss about it. Mm-hmm. There were when we were there were some things we loved about it. We missed some things from here. Ultimately, we came home and then more here.
How long were y'all there?
6.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
But we know, if we ever had to leave, because a lot of people don't leave here. If we had to leave, we'd go back, just not even sweat it. There's so many people from Louisiana there.
There's so many people, I was in the Woodlands.
They have more LSU dive bars, I think, over there than they do in Baton Rouge.
I joked about when I was in the Woodlands one night, there were no funeral homes there. and like estate sales. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, nobody comes here to die. Everyone's there for work, and then they're gone again.
They go to advance in the career.
They're there for a couple years. Like born and raised in Woodlands. Well, Woodlands didn't exist, I think, until the 90s. But Houston, you have very few born and raised Houstonians. People are there for work.
It's a transient population. Yeah.
And you become real close with your neighborhood. We all like real friendly with your neighbors who were all.
We were. And I mean, I know you know this, but that's the reason why you didn't run across the parents a lot. Because a lot of times they
weren't
were,
there.
it was too logistically inconvenient for them to drive through Houston traffic to come meet them, or they weren't native Texans.
And I love that about Louisiana, because everyone here, when you leave Houston, if it's not for work, you're going back to your village.
Yeah.
You can come back to the food, the festivals, the people. I mean, I grew up next to my grandparents. So we just built a house next to my in-laws. No one is dying to move to Ville Platte, and I love our village there. I love it. If I could not have my girls walk across the pasture to my parents' house, they can now walk across the pasture to Ross's parents' house. And our village is there. Our people are there. We host a crawfish boil every year.
Okay.
We're on our...
Like a family one or a client one?
Client one. No, not client. Family.
Okay.
Family friends. So I think last year we were 120 people. This is going to be our 8th year. We'll do it in March. But probably around our 2nd or 3rd, we'll take a picture of all the kids.
Do you have a name for it? Is it the 8th annual?
It is. I use the same invitation every year.
What's it
Switch
called?
the number. Just say crawfish boil.
Okay.
Same invitation. This year, I mean, we're not serving crawfish. Real estate's great, but crawfish is real steep this year. We took a picture of the kids on the front steps. I think we had 35 kids one year. I'm thinking, these are all my husband's people he went to high school with. These are all, when my kids have friends, we didn't have kids at the time. These are their parents. Why are we trying to go anywhere else? And so that's how we ended up, part of how we ended up in Ville Platte.
So a good way to tie that to someone who's buying a house is location, location, location.
And it's okay if that location is close to your village.
Yeah.
You may, and even within Lafayette.
Or what's important to you. Mm-hmm. You know, generally speaking, the closer you get to a city center, a lot of times the prices are a little higher. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily always, and then you move out, it gets a little less. But you have to think of your village, quality of life. You know, there's some additional cost as well. You have wear and tear on the car, gas.
And look at
time.
Places like Karen Crow used to be too far. When you look at now, out of parish is where all the majority of our sales are happening. The biggest increase in sales is out of parish. You can get a little more elbow room. And then exit 4 on I-49 has exploded with businesses. You don't have to go into Lafayette. I think I stopped counting the other day, like at 60 businesses that have, in the last 5 years, that have set up shop right there.
There's a ton. I mean, Amazon's right there. Mm-hmm. There's a ton. I'm sure that the work from home thing, you know, from the prior handful of years helped accelerate that, yes. I would think.
Yes.
Amongst many other things, but that was probably a big catalyst.
And we're seeing, when we look at our stats every month, that out of parish still continues to grow.
So that's a market trend. What other kind of market trends are you observing? Or if you were to just kind of back up to a 10,000 foot overview of the last 18 months, what sort of trends have you been seeing?
So I don't like to talk in what I think is going to happen, but this is one thing that I think is going to happen because we don't have the crystal ball. We always say that.
And we don't speak in absolutes.
We don't.
Okay.
But looking at interest rates when they were in 2 and 3%, they spiked up real fast, real quick. Now they're coming back down. I think if the market stabilized at 5.75 and 6.25, all your pent up demand is going to come out. Now we're at 6.5, somewhere in that range right now. I hadn't looked at it today. I don't even know if I've looked at it this week, but I usually say after Mardi Gras is when our market heats up around here, spring in general, March, April, May. And Mardi Gras was early this year. It was in February. So I didn't mean Ash Wednesday, but Ash Wednesday is when people said, I am done with the holidays. Everything else is behind me. Let's get into a house. And this past, we have a hot sheet that we look at to see what's come on the market, what's gone under contract, what's closed. Monday, the hot sheet had 75 homes that went under contract in the last, I guess it includes Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Wow.
60 of those were 300 and under, which is always the bulk of our market. Like that's where our market is. But if you were in that range and thinking, will I be able to sell? Do I want to sell now? What do I want to do? The buyers, that pent up, the interest rates have come down from 8. They're comfortable. They've accepted that this is their fate. This is where they are. Later, if they go down more, they can refinance. They're here. The buyers are coming out. So what do I expect for the last 18 months, things slowed down. People just were kind of nervous,
Sure.
hang out where you are. The next 18 months, we're back. We're not COVID numbers, but we're back to a normal market for sure.
That was a anomaly blip.
We needed a break. Did you sleep during COVID?
Not much.
No, a lot of it was fast.
It was. If it gets back to average again, though, I'm trying to think of pre-COVID activity.
We compare our numbers in our office. We go back to 2019.
19.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been seeing that.
And we're there. We're higher than 19. So our average price is higher than 19. Our average sales, everything's higher than 19. So if you can compare it to the last average year, our market's still trending better.
Yeah, and I remember the tail end of that year. Your standard, your gold standard for where rates are right now. It was mid to high 4s. Mm-hmm. But after a couple of years in the 6s and 7s and 8s, I agree with you. You get in the low 6s, high to mid 5s. After people got shell shocked coming off of this alternate reality of 2s and 3s. Mm-hmm. Now they're finally getting accustomed to something here.
And they're busting out of their walls. They're so ready to leave their home. They've had more babies.
A bunch.
They've married. They've remarried, brought in all these extra kids, and they need more room.
Their people's quality of life. My conversation I've alluded to on several episodes prior to this one. People they're focused on the wrong things right now. It's not that it's not important, but if your quality of life is down, your biggest bill every month, why do you want to stay? Somewhere where you're not, especially during a time where we had rapid property appreciation as well.
How exciting is that?
So
our area is
unlocking
always so
a bunch of stuff.
Stable.
Yeah.
I've always told people, if you bought your house for $275, chances were I was coming back to tell you it's worth $280 in 5 years. Now look at your appreciation. You're $330. You've really made some good money.
Yeah. There was a home buyer, not a home buyer. I'll have to go back and look it up, but Fannie Mae put out a survey to, I just call them the masters of the universe because I can't remember all the sources, but investment banks, we're talking like Goldman Sachs, Chase, economists, that crowd. Where do you see home values going over the next 5 years? So this report came out in January of this year. Mm-hmm. So what is if you buy a house today, or if you're in years now, what are your value? What is the national average of these people surveyed? What does that look like in 2029? Some people were negative. Some people were crazy high. Some people were lukewarm, 5 to 10%. Subtotaling all of those, it was 25%.
Appreciation.
25% appreciation.
And
that's 5% a year. National average, all markets taken into account. So those are the ones that take you on the wild rides, the stable ones, the ones that just go up all the time. The median surveyed number was 25%.
That's exciting. And that's why when real estate becomes wealth building for people, and for families and for investors, or, for your life, that's why. Because everyone talks about, the market's going to crash here. It's not. You can say that, but the number doesn't.
It
track
didn't
that
back in
all.
08, 09 before.
When we don't follow the nation, we're protected.
Yeah. I remember reaching out to my mentor back then before I was in the business, because that's when we were in Texas. We had just bought a house. My situational awareness was different back then, but once we got settled in the house, started kind of really paying attention to the news. And I remember calling him like, "Hey, how are things going?" He's like, "It really hasn't down a little bit, but like we're not those roller coaster areas that you see, like certain parts of Florida and California and like parts of Arizona and Nevada. I think those are the ones that kind of it was pretty stable." And the world almost stopped. Not in they call it the financial crash. Mm-hmm. A financial crisis, and it wasn't just houses; it was like everything. And
the last time we really felt a dip like that, Bill Bache's numbers go back to the 80s, and maybe even earlier than that. 80s was rough, but we're more diversified here than we've ever been. We were like 80-something% oil and gas then, and now we're down below 30. I think it's even lower than that. But we're okay. We're protected. We're in our own little bubble, so we're not impacted by what's going on nationally. So we don't see drastic appreciation. We don't see drastic depreciation.
And then we have the work from home thing too.
Yes.
So that some of these, a lot of people that live here might work in Massachusetts.
I mean, all these
But they
kids,
do it. They do it from
all
the
these
home.
kids and these moms with their side hustles, they can do all these jobs from home that before, you had to get out of the home to do a lot of these things.
To piggyback on the trend that you mentioned earlier, I think where you see things potentially going, it's going to flip to a seller's market once that demand kind of gets unleashed a little bit. And also to piggyback on something else you said, when you think they get in the high fives, people can get those right now if they negotiate them into their contract.
The buy down.
Yeah, permanent.
Mm-hmm.
So it's possible. But if demand goes up and rates don't come down enough, sellers aren't going to give,
anything.
They're not going to give anything.
They're in a safe spot now if you're a buyer, because during COVID, you went look at one home at a time and you wrote the offer on the hood of my car and you sent it in. And there were 15 other offers. Now you can go home and you can think about it. And that's a real safe. Everyone would always ask me, you loved COVID. I didn't need 15 offers on a property. No. I needed one offer that stuck. I didn't need the paperwork for 15 offers because we have to respond to each one of them legally. I have to present all of them. I need one, and then they get cold feet because they were bidding. They wanted to win. And now my buyers can look at 10 or 12 homes on a Saturday. I hadn't done that since before COVID. They can go home and think about it. And then we did have a pop in multiple offers in the last week or so, where I think I was in 4 multiple offer situations. I hadn't had that in a long, long time. Yeah. Some were a fluke. I mean, some just happened. And
some properties are like that though.
Well, and then you'll see a home on the market for 60 days, and then we were getting multiple offers on those. It's because the buyers were back. The buyers were out.
That's right.
They weren't trying to shop during Thanksgiving and Christmas.
So bring me back from the Woodlands to Lafayette and Ville Platte.
So let's talk about...
How did you get back here, and how did you land at what was probably Van Eaton Romero at the time?
Yes, it was. So I quit my job July 19th, 2013. It was a Friday. I got my real estate license.
You quit your job as a realtor?
No.
No, you're talking about...
Previous job.
Okay.
I had a friend who was a lender who probably when I was like 25 kept asking me to get into it. And I didn't own a house. I don't know anything about real estate. And then over the years, I just decided, well, let me go into real estate school. Nothing of what you learn in real estate school is actually what you do.
Same as us?
Imagine that.
Wow.
So I go get my real estate license. I'm going to work in Baton Rouge. I was living in Baton Rouge at the time. So then I decided July 19th was my last day of my previous job. July 20th, my family does Christmas in July. We're too big. So it's too hard to coordinate schedules around like all my cousins, aunts, uncles.
So Christmas in July ends up being the summer vacation.
July 20th, the next day after I quit my job.
Okay.
My uncle's there. And my uncle, aunt, and their kids live in the Woodlands. And he said, come back with me. You're not dating anyone, didn't have any kids. There was no reason to stay. I was like, well, he said, Exxon's moving their world headquarters to Houston. Why don't you come? Well, why not? So that was July 20th. The first weekend in August, I was headed to the Woodlands. My car was packed up. I stopped in Ville Platte. There was an alumni softball tournament, and I had friends that were getting engaged, and I knew they were being engaged. We were going to celebrate that. I was supposed to meet Ross, my husband, through 3 different social circles, like 9 months prior. They're like, you need to meet Ross. And this person's like, you need to meet Ross. And we just never, I was part of the same tailgate with his brother-in-law and his sister.
Okay.
You need to meet Ross. Nope, never met him. So I walk up to the alumni tournament.
On the way to Texas.
On the way to, my car's packed. I'm going to Texas, not coming back. And they said, there's Ross. I was like, nope, he's on first base, catches a fly ball. I said, I'm leaving tomorrow. No, I was supposed to do this. I'm leaving tomorrow. It's too late. They said, just meet him. So after the game, after the tournament that Friday night, we all went out and I met him. And then the next day we hung out all day. And then he was helping me. I said, I'm still leaving tomorrow. And he helped within a couple weeks or so. He was helping me move me over there. So we started dating then. Dated for 2 years, long distance. I was in the Woodlands. He was in Ville Platte. He's 3rd generation family company in Ville Platte. So he was up there, earning his keep with that company in Ville Platte. So I was just rocking and rolling in real estate. So we got engaged and moved back over here. And that we got married April of 16.
April of 16.
I come back.
So you were probably starting to get going after a couple of years in the Woodlands, and then you were uprooting again.
Exxon's moving their world. My financial advisor at the time advised against moving there and he understood that. And I guess I heard him, but didn't really pay attention that I can go to the Woodlands and start a business, but if I ever come back home, my clients are not following me. He's right. So he said, you're going to start over twice. I didn't care. I went and did it. I remember talking to mentors and people at the time that said, really don't do it. It's not what everyone makes it out to be. I think that's another thing too. I think a lot of people get into the business thinking it's flexible and it's glamorous. You do all these great things. There's a lot of heavy work that we do. There's a lot of emotionally, it's great to get to a closing table with a family who's, on all the fun things. But what about the closing table from the divorce or the death or they have to get out this house financially? We handle those things that nobody really talks about, the heavy things in real estate. So I was in the Woodlands, got started there in 13. I said a partner and I started at the same time. And she and I just really bounced off of each other. She was real competitive and I wasn't. So that was great because we just sold a bunch of real estate. And I remember going to my manager then thinking like, am I doing okay? I don't know.
What brokerage did you work for?
I was with Coldwell Banker there.
Okay.
They had 17 offices in the Houston area. I remember going to ask questions like, how are we doing? She just kind of wouldn't. She was a fantastic manager, but would never really tell me where I was. So I just kept selling real estate. Didn't have kids, wasn't married. I could do this day in and day out. And we did. At the end of the year, we set franchise records. My manager there, fantastic. She said, I didn't want to tell you, I didn't want to slow you down. And she was right, because the average real estate agent, the NAR statistic at the time was your income was $12,000 a year. So I wanted to be better than average. I wanted to make 15. I was going to work hard to make 15.
Okay.
And then when I had a fantastic year, so I sold $14 million in my first 2 years. I didn't know what that meant. Total.
Okay.
So
That's a lot.
I come back to Louisiana with my numbers in my pretty spreadsheet. And I go start interviewing. This is after we were engaged. So this is October of 15. I interviewed with a couple companies in town and I bring my numbers with me and I don't know what that means. If it's good, bad, or indifferent. I think everyone's selling
That's wild.
This much real estate.
It's crazy that that your manager didn't go into those things with you. But I think there is some magic there too. Because if you start talking about certain things and you get inside your own head. So she just let you.
She did.
Okay.
Full speed ahead. And it was exciting. And so I still talk to that working partner there. I talked to her yesterday. I still send everything to the Woodlands to her. And so come back here, interview with 3 companies here. One didn't look at my numbers at all. And I was offended that they don't even care. I still at that point didn't know if they were good, bad, or indifferent. I do joke with that broker now that, he let me walk out his doors and I really wanted to be there. No, he's a great friend, great broker. So I ended up with Van Eaton at the time.
Okay.
Troy was the broker. Bill, Nancy, and Gail were all still there. And they were in the season of their lives. Nancy and Gail were. They were the 2 women that started Van Eaton in a male-dominated industry. And they were in the season of their lives of being recognized for all the charity and everything they had done.
After all the years.
All the years. So, but they were still present every day in that office, dressed to the nines in that office. And what they've created in our area has been fantastic.
Anytime someone talks about those 2 ladies, I hear that part come up a lot.
There's a presence about them.
The presence, yeah.
So it's special to be in an office with them and then kind of like the generation behind them. You had Bill Bakke, who was our number guru. They led a fantastic brokerage, well respected in the community, well respected within our walls. And then we had Troy, who was behind them. So Troy was my go-to because he was the broker at the time. And he really just I could go in there, bounce anything, everything off of him. And then I was privileged enough. Teresa Hamilton had been in the business at the time for 40 years. She had sold anything and everything to everyone in town.
Was she one of the original employees of Van Eaton Romero?
I think there was a stint of like a year or 2 where she stepped away from them, but then came right back. So she had been with them from the very beginning. Wow. And she wasn't from here. She started her career with door knocking, with her son in a stroller in a wagon, just getting to know the neighborhood. And her heart is what has spoken volumes. People have tried to recreate her team in the way that she has. And
the one you're running.
There's no formula for it. It's the heart that's in it.
Yeah.
And it's her. And it's the presence. So I got to work under her for the last 7 or 8 years. And that's what's been the invaluable part of this business. When everyone has a story about how they've interacted with her, what she's done, she's so real. And she has helped so many people that you would never know on other sides of, outside of real estate. And they love and respect her. So when she says, you need to call Kim, or I'm going to have Kim call you, they already love me. She's already sold me to them.
She's teed you up for everybody.
She has, and she's really, really good at it. And the team she's created under her has been everyone's, self-starters. We joke about, she can't set goals for us or tell us, you have to have sales, that you have to do to remain on the team. Everyone thinks that's what we have. Like, oh, you have to sell that much to remain. No, not at all. We're all motivated from each other. When I joined the team, the 4 people on the team were in the top 10 in the area, 4 of them.
Wow.
And I remember sitting there saying, well, I know y'all are talking to a lot of other people. I just really like working on my own. And Jason at the time, looked at me and said, we're not talking to anyone else. If you don't want it, we're not going to anyone else. I'm like, well, hold on. I just thought I was one of, 20 or 30 people they were sitting down with. So when I reconsidered and looked at who was on that team and who they were under.
This is when you were making a decision about
joining. So I was at Van Eaton already.
Okay.
And this was about a year. I was at Van Eaton for about a year before I joined them.
Okay. So you were a solo agent when you came on.
I was, yeah. And I loved being a solo agent. I felt like I was really good at it, but I didn't know what I was missing.
Okay.
And it's not any team. It's this team. It's what she's created.
Nice.
Pretty cool.
So once you got to kind of peek into that world, thinking you probably didn't know everything, but thought you knew a lot, get behind the curtain. Did you just have so many,
you think at the time you're being fed all this information of how to grow your business, what you can do. You can buy leads. You can buy this program. You can go to this class. You can do these open houses. You can give someone, a new agent, 100 ways on how they can grow their business. When I walked into that room, all that was thrown out. There's not a single lead that's ever been bought. I had a company call me yesterday wanting to talk about buying leads. And she said, I don't understand how y'all don't. It's relationship. And it's taking care of people. And it's being there. I had a situation recently where a landlord of mine, and we're the first call. If something goes wrong at a house, and where it's not anything I can help, but I have the resources, and it's the calming that let's talk it through. And I'm going to learn so much with them. And so the relationship she said, I don't know why you would do all of this for me. Because I'm not making money off of it, but it's never been about making the money. I remember when I was in the Woodlands, Ross at one point said, I need to understand why you do this, because I don't think you've ever looked at the bank account. And I hadn't, because it's never been about the bank account. It's taking care of people, and then in turn, they'll take care of you. I handle a lot of agents' own business, their own family members, or their own, I can't do this. Let me do it. Let me handle it for you. And it's taking care of other people. And Teresa's gotten several calls about me. I don't understand how she's able to pull this off. And there's a lot of times I don't know how I'm able to pull it off. When you don't know why you've done something or how you've pulled it off, it's kind of fun to just trust me on this. And I'm not one to look at someone and say, trust me, we'll figure this out. Because I'm behind the scenes going, I don't know how we're going to figure this out.
Right.
And then we do. And then when I had recently where I had some sellers, and it was a domino effect deal of 3 deals in one. We were the very first one to close. We were sellers. So at that point, everything's out of your control. You're just trusting everyone else to do their jobs. The buyer was driving in from out of state, and his trailer packed with all his belongings, and he passed away on the way to closing. I say on the way to closing. He was in ICU for 2 weeks. Something happened on the way to Louisiana that put him in ICU in Alabama. 2 weeks later, he did close. I mean, he did pass away, so we could not close. But things like that don't happen. They don't teach you that in real estate school. Mm-mm. And then it's my job to really handle the process and smooth everything over, and but with facts. I'm not going to tell them something. Yeah, this is inconvenient for everyone had moved out at that point. Everyone has to move back in. I have a forced sell by owner in the middle who doesn't know me from the man in the moon. And I have to go to her office and talk with her about, this is why you need to stick with these buyers. I don't know if this man's going to wake up.
You probably didn't do that on the phone.
No, I went in person.
Makes a difference.
But I needed her to trust my people and stick with my people. And she did. And it's really easy for me to look 30 days ahead. I can say that to everyone all day long. But in the moment when things are happening, I need to be that voice that kind of brings everyone back together. A buyer wants to buy and a seller wants to sell. My job is to make it happen. Yeah. Work with the other side to make it happen. There's no ego involved. There's deals fall apart. It happens. I mean, the guy passed away.
Yeah. What are you
going to do?
Yeah.
We sell it again.
We the relationship thing is big. I had a client under contract now, actually, who reached out to me and said that he needed to buy another house. Well, he bought 14 months ago. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking he's trying to buy a rental property. We talked about building wealth with real estate. I was like, okay, well, He's doing really well with work. He's going to buy a rental. We got to find a place to, park the money, watch it grow. And lo and behold, his spouse had passed away. So he was selling. His house had just gone under contract and said, hey, look, I need to unfortunately restart my life again already. And can you help me? So we were kind of going through, okay, well, how do you want to do it? And he said, perfect world, I'd like this kind of loan and I'd like it structured in such a way. Kind of got into the meat and potatoes of it and said, hey, look, I have 3 options. None of them are the one that you want. And he said, I'll take your recommendation. I trust you wholeheartedly. And then he proceeded to tell me that, which I had actually forgotten, and I was so glad that he reminded me. When he and his wife had purchased the home 14 months ago, they went all out. And I remember asking him, what was it that drew you to this one? Because different conversations. Like, I'm not, like, what's your payment? Like, I don't, it's a lot more than that. It's important. So I remember asking, like, hey, what actually drew you to this one? And he said, my wife always wanted a pool and she's terminally ill. So I want to be able to give this to her before, for however long it lasts. And one thing that he mentioned to me on the phone yesterday, he said, hey, I trust you. Pick the right, just pick the best one. I want to make it easy. I can make all of them work. I'll follow your lead. And he said, I wanted to tell you, thank you also. And I said, for what? For figuring it out, as quick as we could. He said, no. He said, I wanted to thank you for the way that you treated my wife at closing when we closed 14 months ago. And I asked him what specifically he was talking about, and I had forgotten. And again, I'm so glad he reminded me. She hadn't had a house for a while, I think, or it was so, the one that he got for them was so far, I guess, out of, in her mind, the reach of what they were capable of doing. So I wanted to make it special. And I brought her some flowers, and she was like, oh my God, what are these for? And, I said, well, look, other than my wife and my mom, I've never really got flowers for somebody before. So yeah. And he remembered how had made her feel, which made him feel good. And when he went to do all this stuff, he called me and gave me carte blanche to help him and took the recommendation.
It's another day of taking care of people.
Yep.
And I want to be their person. I remember at some point I'd have clients that probably, this particular client had never purchased anything, decided to rent, and in a situation renting was better, asked for recommendations on things, and things that are totally unrelated to my field at all. I remember... Because
they value your feedback.
They do. The hairdresser, the OBGYN, the whatever, when you can have those, I want to be there, because eventually I want them to come to me for real estate too. But if they know they can come to me for everything else in between and really trust, and I'll tell them, I don't know, let me ask around. I like those conversations. I want to be their person. It doesn't have to turn into real estate right now.
But they
later.
think they're getting something from you, but you're getting something from them too. You might learn something.
Yes. Recently with the landlord that asked, why do you do this? It was, she called and the entire agent on our team, Stephanie, was showing the property. It was shown on Friday, and this was a Monday night. I just pulled up it was my birthday. No, my birthday was a Sunday. It was a Monday. I was on a trip. I pulled up at my house. The girls are singing me happy birthday, and Stephanie's calling. I said, let me call her back. Whole house was flooded from the toilet. So, okay, I got to jump into action. Let me call the owner. And so this has never happened. There's a crack in the toilet. It's flooded the house. What do you do? Well, we're going to figure it out together. And so at one point we were, I was going to meet her to pull off baseboards a couple days later, because we need to know if water got behind there. And she needs to have peace of mind to know if she ever sells this house that there is 100% no water behind those baseboards.
Right. Because she's going to call you when she goes to sell.
She will. And I want her to be able to sleep at night. And so we figured it all out together. Did we need to make an insurance claim or not? We need a restoration company, or don't we? How do we clean this? Do we mop it up? It was figuring it all out. But I'm not leaving them out there to fend for themselves on something like this. I might not know what to do or be able to get there right away, but we can work together, talk through it. A lot of talk therapy on the phone, on my drive. My clients know. We want to talk, we can talk. On my way into Lafayette, on my way back, a whole lot of talking. But I also get to my family, and I'm completely disconnected. I've, gotten to a place where Because if we lived closer, I would just sit in my driveway on the phone the whole time. I can be mama when I pull in that driveway.
So is that kind of like a top feature whenever you shop for vehicles? It has to have amazing Bluetooth quality.
I don't like Bluetooth in cars. I don't like talking to someone in the car because they seem really far away. I'm into the AirPods, one AirPod, not two, because I need to hear the world around me.
Yeah, if somebody's honking at you.
Control. I need to be able to hear any sounds.
So before we wrap it up for today, if you were to speak to someone listening or watching today's podcast, you're talking to someone who's thinking about selling, and you say, hey, Mr. and Mr. Seller, please do these things. This will help you sell your house. And you're talking to Mr. and Mrs. Buyer. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, here are some things you need to do to get prepped to buy. What would you tell them? So
I think right now, in the age of social media, because I get caught up in it too, if I'm looking for agents in other cities, when you're watching someone's social media and they're posting really cool, fun things and they have all these engagements and all these likes, that does not correspond to actual transaction experience and their ability to sell a home. Being a really good content creator on one side and being able to actually handle a transaction beginning to end, we need to go back to look at their resume.
And all the stuff in between.
Everything in between.
And if anyone's listened up to this point, they know that there is a lot of stuff in between. And everybody's got to care to do it, because you do a lot of stuff people probably don't do.
And and I thought about that this morning, because I get caught up in it. If I'm looking for an agent in Birmingham, it's like, oh, look at all these homes they're selling. There's so many ways around all of that to really get the good agents. Sure, they can have social media companies handling these things for them, but I don't have the time to create the fun. I don't even know how to make a reel, which is cool. I don't want to learn because then I'll probably never stop. I don't do these things because I'm with my buyers and my sellers.
Right.
I forget the tours of the homes where you walk through and pull out your phone and show all the pretty stuff. I like looking at that too. I also don't have the time to do it. So we need to go back to, you need to make sure you're really with someone qualified, and you make sure that's gone through it. That's, recommendations from family and friends is perfect. But if you don't know, you really need to ask the agent, what have they done? And what have they done in these situations? And how have they gotten you? And how can they get you through it? What do they know about the area? What does their marketing plan look like? Look at all that before we look at, the social media stuff is cool. You have to do it. Everyone's doing it. So we have to do it. But I think going back to, you're hiring someone to take care of the biggest investment of your life. And do you trust them? And so when I come in, so at that point, here's her resume. We've looked at everything. Here's what she's going to do to market the home. You got to like them too. But when I come in with the recommendations on what it's going to take to sell a home, you don't have to do any of them. You absolutely do not have to do a single one of them. This is your home. But if you want to sell the home for top dollar, when you go trade in your car, you're going to bring to get it detailed for someone to give you $20,000. You want someone to give you $400,000 and you're not going to make the bed, or you're not going to paint. Right. You need to have a budget for how much you want to prep, set a budget for, I'm going to prep the house. I'm going to allow this much for prepping the house for market. All your honey-do list items that you didn't want to do, the next buyer doesn't want to do either. So do the research too, and be prepared. If you want someone to give you that much, and the market has appreciated, you're about to make some sweet money on your home.
Yeah, why leave some on the table?
Make them want to give it to you. Buyers think that it's
sellers don't look at it from the lens of a buyer. They look at it through their own. And you say, well, look, if you were walking in this house, you want it to be turnkey, ready to go.
Exactly. They don't have the time, money, or appetite to take care of the projects you didn't have the time, money, or appetite to tackle.
You should have a visual aid. I don't know if you do. You should make a hat that says, I am a buyer, like on the front. And then when you have these conversations with them, you should make them wear it.
And I make them. We start at the beginning, at their front door, walk through your house as a buyer would. And it's funny because when they're sellers, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. When they become buyers, it's, well, they better do this, they better do that.
Funny how that changes.
The sellers are I have some sellers that are as is, we're not doing a thing to this house. Okay. There's as is a myth. That's not it's as is with what they know. But if you don't want to touch it, that's okay. We can do credits. There's ways that we can work around it.
Right.
But if you didn't touch it and it's time for it to be done, and that rotten wood's not going to get better overnight, it's just going to get worse. And the inventory they're looking at, They have plenty of other homes to go and choose from, and they will. And eventually you'll get tired of it. Showings are hard. You got to put the kids and the dog and everybody in the car, and it's raining. And then they said they'd be there from 10 to 11. They got there at 10:45. Now it's 11:15. I mean, you don't want to do this 100 times. So price where the market is, but get it in condition that matches that price.
Show ready.
Show price, condition, location. It all has to match up.
Price, condition, location. PCL.
Yep.
You can make another hat.
Another
like that.
hat. I have a bunch of hats. They're going to be in my colors.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you have a palette. So you'll have to have a few, depending on what you wear.
My smoky grays, my neutrals.
Okay. Now you know I was actually listening when you were telling me all that stuff. Okay, so know a budget, someone with experience, try to follow recommendations.
Yes.
You're getting them for a reason.
Yes.
You hired a professional.
When you're at, and I go to my financial planner, I'm like, everything, you just do what you need to do. You're the professional, you handle. I might not have any money one day. We'll find out one day. I'll let people handle things if I'm that hands off. But if you want me to sell your home, here's my recommendations.
Sure.
It's your home. You don't have to do any of it. But here's what I'm in these homes all day long. I've looked at these inspection reports thousands of times, literally.
Literally.
And you've done that. And then, my dad did this or my sister said that. You're right. You're not wrong. Different market, different time. I even had clients that when we bought, you can't think of when we bought, because when you bought was different market.
Everything was different. Their outlook on things were different.
Yeah.
What they wanted and needed was different. The market was different.
And that's real important.
Big time. Well, Kimberly, thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, it was fun. It was a colorful interview, pun intended. I think you already spent my Mother's Day allowance. So now you know what you're getting.
That's exciting. Send me your colors.
We're definitely going to have to do this again. I feel like we could have ran this quite a bit longer, but I know duty calls.
It's nice to not have my phone staring at me, taking a video and just talking to myself. It was nice to talk to someone else for a change.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, you'll have to come back and we'll see how things are going around that time.
We'll go for round 2.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks for coming.
Thanks.